If this looks slightly familiar, that was Derbycon 20 with bananas.
Yeah, that's true. True story. We were the bananas. Yep.
That's the last time I was.
Wow, that's way too long.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've been thinking this through. We're sure we're the bananas.
No. Hey, you get it?
We're good.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Hey, Derbycon, thank you so much for coming out. 10 a.m. on Sunday. You know, some of you probably are a little hungover, or you are the few who weren't imbibing too much. So, hey, good on you. Thank you so much for coming out and hearing our little ranty talk about how we're going to try to do some experiments and see how many folks want to come along with us on this one, because I think this is going to be an interesting journey. So, a couple disclaimers before we begin. This tool is in heavy development, and case in point, he was scared that I was going to be trolling him by not showing up to talk. And the reason for that was I was trying to fix a bug that I introduced. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to fix the bug, but I followed, or rather, I ate my own dog food that Adam and I, when we gave our pen testing with PowerShell talk, one of the things that he said that you always need to do is have screenshots to prove that you did what you did. So we've got screenshots, which is very lovely and nice. So we'll have that. I'm hopeful that this framework eventually becomes something that a lot of folks find helpful and useful. And this should be an interesting bit of software development, because one of the things that we're trying with this project is to make the barrier of entry for this to be incredibly low. And there will be more about that in a little bit. This is an independent project. This has nothing to do with our day jobs or like the Illuminati or anything. This is just, okay, apparently there is some Illuminati connection. So please don't ice us, bro.
On that though,
Yeah.
So I also want to, I'm sorry, cutting it off, but I also want to thank you all for coming out and seeing us instead of Dave Kennedy. Because each person in this room who's not seeing Dave Kennedy right now, and don't tell me you got kicked out because 3 folks on the cry, but each person who's in here instead of seeing him makes me happy. Now, as many of you know, Dave's been icing presenters all come long. And we can't do that to him right now because we're up on stage sharing our experience with you. However, if I can have my lovely assistant from the front row, please give this ice Dave from everyone in this presentation and report back to us on if it was a successful icing.
Good luck and Godspeed.
Thank you.
That was, for those of you who have never actually been fortunate enough to be iced, I don't think you... Yeah, you might want to pass it around. It's like bathwater warm. And I don't know how the hell... You know, even under the best of conditions, Smirnoff Ice is not a drink that one should have, but to have it warm is just foul in a way that is hard to really articulate. If you don't believe me, just crack it open and have yourself a single.
So basically, we just successfully iced everyone in the presentation.
Well, that makes it an ice APT. Alright, well, while we're doing the ice shenanigans, let's give a little intro about ourselves. My name is Mick Douglas. You can follow me on Twitter. And in my day job, I'm the Digital Forensics and Incident Response Practice Lead at Binary Defense. It's a real fun gig. We have a good time doing what we do, trying to help the big guys win the fight. And then in my copious spare time, I'm a SANS community instructor where I teach a variety of different classes. And I'm incorporating a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching, especially with SANS 550, the Active Defense class, and SANS 504, the Hacker Techniques and Incident Response class, into this framework because, well, why not? I've given many talks on blue team being sexy, I think that the blue team is really hot and it's fun, but you know what? Red team's a lot of fun too. I've been a pen tester and I will continue to be on pen tests. I think that offense should inform defense and defense should inform offense. It's important that you understand both sides, and as a result, I think you get a nice mixing, which means purple team is where it's at.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jamie. I'm the CISO over at Binary Defense, which means that I get to do a lot of fun stuff like policies. Who doesn't love writing policies first thing in the morning?
All right. Anybody who's got their hands up, they're either brain damaged or lying.
True story. One of the more fun things that I do when I'm not home is I'm a coach for my son's football team. It's one of the things I love to do. The kid knows more about football than most adults I know, so I'm actually going to start using him to pick all my winners for all these like different online, hey, one day famous football things.
Well, you do realize you're making that claim in an area where people refer to football as sports ball. So that's not that high of a barrier in some
I wasn't this one yet.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm on the court, so. Victory! Thank you, Track 3, for being the first full presentation that has successfully ice skated in it. And my beautiful photo here, I originally gave it to Mick to put in the talk, thinking that, Dave will probably come and see the presentation. However, he thought it was really funny to schedule himself at the same time as us. So he didn't get to see my pretty clown costume. This is what I passed out candy with.
Now, I found that really twisted that you wear this like a trick-or-treat and this is what you hand candy out with.
No, this is just what I hand candy out with, and then having to do a trick-or-treat.
Sweet come help. Alright, so getting back onto business, we believe that there's lots of problems with InfoSec, but there's 5 main ones that we as practitioners can actually help affect changing. And one of those that is pretty glaring, if you've ever been on an audit or any sort of compliance gig for a while, you'll understand that GRC, the governance, can be very, very far away from what the actual in the trenches reality is. And while it's not as sexy and fun, you're never going to have people go like, hey, did you see that new SOX compliance policy? It's really important stuff. And one of the things that we're going to talk a little bit about is how we can help marry those, that gulf potentially, hopefully. Another thing that's interesting, and a sentiment that I've been hearing echoed over and over again throughout my years of being in InfoSec, is that it's rather difficult to get started. And while I don't appreciate that fully, because I think that you just pick up stuff and start hacking. The issue is, in order to be effective in a role like what you see folks like John Strand or Ed Scotus or other folks at, you have to know libraries of knowledge. And so when folks get into the field, nobody's like, I'm going to be a help desk tech, woo! And don't get me wrong, that's a great foot in the door. Okay, well, we all have our dreams. But the fact is there's way too much information, and there was a little bit in the keynote that was interesting where they were talking about how work is going to collapse down. And it was too big of a venue. I wanted to raise my hand and say that's a very good thing. And I know that sounds weird that we're looking for a job crash where there's going to be gigs that are paying about $45,000 or $50,000 in the future. But you know what? That's great. And here's why. There are not enough of us, which is what is driving the automation. The big 6-figure jobs or 90K jobs aren't going away anytime soon. What we're going to be doing, though, is creating a bunch of gigs for people who are currently underemployed. This is a good thing. We need to have tools to help lower the curve. One of the things that I find really quite inexcusable is that there are organizations that when we say, hey, show us your log sources, or even what are your log sources? There's some implementation horror stories that we've got, where they just don't know what they have, and yet it's a simple PowerShell command away, and when we give them the PowerShell commandlet or the script, they say, hey, I double-clicked that PS1 file and it didn't run. PowerShell has been out now for about 5 years. A little bit longer, actually. It started in 2K8. It's inexcusable that people don't know these things, and yet, because of the volume of information they have to absorb, it's too much. One of the things that Blue Team Army has is a GUI framework. And I know, coming from me, that sounds really powerfully odd. Those of you who listened to me back when I was on the Security Weekly podcast knew that I had a catchphrase that went something like this: man up, Nancy boy, the GUI's for girly men. The CLI is where it's at. And I still believe that the CLI is a beautiful and powerful thing. I love it. But it's not for everyone. It's time that we drop the elitist attitude, and I'm the first to, point at myself and say, I was a punk. I shouldn't have been doing that. There's nothing wrong with opening up MMC snap-ins. Now, I wouldn't want to live there necessarily, but as a learning tool, it's awesome stuff. Another problem that we have, the industry's a little too focused on the red team. If you look at the number of talks that have been going on at Derbycon, I've been kind of over the years counting the blue versus red talks, and I'm happy to say that the blue numbers keep going up year after year, and that's awesome. We need more blue talks. If you're a defender, submit a talk. We need more defensive talks. And if for nothing else, there's more blue team job openings. There's more blue teamers than there are red teamers. It's insane that we're letting a very small percentage of our industry drive what our conferences are. Blue team can be sexy. Blue team can be fun. In fact, I think it's even funner than Pentafest. That's just my opinion. And yeah, well, I would hope so, since we're a defensive company. Another thing that we need to start doing a better job of in the industry is making better use of the data that we have. In almost every case of an incident response that I've worked over my almost 20 years in computers, there's been ample log information. There's been ample NetFlow information. And yet people just say, oh, we had no idea. It must have been APT. How'd they get in the network? Don't know. We got to use what we have better. And we've got a couple tools that should hopefully help with that, and we're dovetailing, or at least trying to dovetail in with the RETA project, for those of you who saw the statistical analysis talk. We're trying to implement that, and I'll talk about some of the odd issues with these experiments. And then another final thing that makes me super sad is that there's so much tool locking. People believe that once a tool gets deployed in their network, they're stuck. And for a large part, they are, because they don't have the ability to port the data or the logs or the whatever to another platform. Folks, I hate to break it to you, but in the 70s, that was a solved issue. And we'll get into that rant in a little bit. Now, I've gone over this list here with you, and you'll probably realize that this is crazy talk. This is not going to be something that we're going to fix overnight. This isn't going to be something that will be an easy win. In fact, we're pretty much crazy trying to go after these, but why not? Yeah, why not? When does that stop us? We are going to fail a lot. Case in point, the tool actually causes this weird little infinite loop because, it's like divided by 0 or something in the code right now. But what I am finding is that there are some interesting findings, and we'll be sharing them with you right now. First problem that I have is when it comes to the GRC stuff, how far of a gulf are we talking about?
And we are talking about a big gulf. Well, let's face it, how many people in here actually do any kind of GRC work? Awesome. Now, from those people who raised their hand, how many of you actually also do, at the same time or in the same role, or in the technical capacity? Excellent. Okay, wow. So that's good. However, for those of you who aren't, there is a gap. I mean, let's face it. Somebody who has to do a lot of GRC work, we're going to be complaining about the technical people because we have PCI, we have HIPAA, we have GLBA, we have all these other things that we have to make sure that we are meeting standards for. But the people who are on the real technical level, they're like, okay, bro, and that's it. I'll get to it. That's cool. I have this other thing I'm really wanting to work on. And on the flip side, somebody on the tech who's on the primary technical role, you know, they're looking at it like, I don't really care. It's compliance. Security, or compliance is unequal security, which is a definitely true story. However, from a business standpoint, unfortunately, sometimes, we have to do certain things with GRC. And we are missing a lot of it.
I mean, and one of the things, it doesn't have to necessarily be that it's like malfeasance, that you're like, oh, you know, I don't want to do the right thing. It's just that it's painful. Speaking as a tech, I mean, I've got 11 billion things to do before I go home on a given day. And the last thing I want to do is read a book that's like the size of a small town's telephone book, and then try to figure out what the heck a lawyer was meaning when they said, you know, the Googleplex water meter security setting must be set to purple. You know, and you laugh, but these are the people who are writing these policies, and there's no good match up.
And let's face it, you know, the only time, usually when somebody on the technical side really cares about what they're seeing is when it's time for an audit. True story. I mean, I've been on both sides of the fence. The only time I really cared when I was super technical back in the day was, all right, I had an audit coming up. I should probably just make sure that those boxes get checked so I don't hear any crap from anybody.
So, show of hands, and this isn't for your current job, but at some point in your career, you know someone who had an audit coming in, and they all of a sudden had to tidy house and sweep everything under the rug. Come on, everybody's hand should be up. You know that sucks. Thank you for being honest. What we've done with Blue Team Army is we have this little hack, for a lack of a better term, that what we're doing is we have this idea that should hopefully help tighter integrate GRC-type items with the controls that they're supposed to be creating. And so we have this loose framework. Right now, we're currently basing it off of the SANS 20 critical controls because it's an open standard, it's very well known, and it's also not as detailed as, say, the ISO series. We'll eventually add those if there's a desire, but we're going with the easy stuff first because, you know, you don't start running a marathon from day one. You got to do your 5Ks first. So here's how this tool works. You fire it up, and it's going to have this dialog box. You do your drop down and say, hey, I want to make the password policy. You click that, and then password length, password history 12, you click generate policies, bingo, bango, bongo, and you get three things. You get one programmatically generated Word doclet. We need that term up. People are like, doclets, is that new in PowerShell? No, just totally made up. But
please spread it around, because that way we'll actually feel cool.
Yeah. But the idea behind it is PowerShell has the ability to generate Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. very easily. If you've not done it, you actually should give it a try. You'll be pleasantly pleased at how I see some people nodding their head. The first time I did it, I was like, that's it? You know, like, I was expecting to have to do some kind of weird ritual sacrifices. You know, for those of you who did stuff with like VE programming back in the day, or Lord help you, we were using Perl to generate that stuff. Yeah, this is a huge improvement. The other thing, though, that it creates, and this is where it gets kind of interesting, at least in my opinion, is it's going to create two other objects. It's going to create either a GPO object that you can push through Active Directory, or it will create a set WMI commandlet script that can be pushed across your domain. So now, what's actually in the document is what you're going to be setting and affecting in the domain immediately. Now, first, Thank you. First, what you would have to do, though, is do this in a tested environment, please. Because you can break things pretty bad. Then, this third and final object that's created is the get WMI object script, which will allow you to validate or check for compliance or conformance with that particular item on an automatic basis. You want to do an audit daily? Knock yourself out. You want to do it every 30 seconds? Try the decaf. But you could do that. And the thing that was really powerful about this is when I was talking with a mentor of mine, I mentioned, this sort of thing, and he kind of chuckled, and he goes, we've always been fighting for chain of evidence in forensics. We now, with this, could potentially have a chain of governance, which I think is actually pretty badass. It's a little hack, not that tricky to do, but implementing it should be relatively easy. Once you would go through all the components of this policy generator, there's a stitcher that will take the policy docklets and smush them together. You can wordsmith them, do whatever, because it's just template text. So you can wordsmith as needed, but it will have a one-to-one click for your environment, which is really cool.
So, from a management perspective, or even like just if you're doing GRC on a daily basis as your day job, something like this is awesome for you. Because you can work, like you said before about the bridging the gap, you can work with the technical side and say, hey, we have an audit coming up in 3 weeks, but we want to see where we are at. What do we need to work on to make sure that, everything's cool?
Also, I don't want to paint like y'all are lazy, but I'll admit I am. Maybe it slid past you without, understanding it because this is early in the morning. It's got the template text there. It's writing policy for you. It's fill in the blank. Is there anyone who actually likes writing policy docs? All right, whoa, Jimmy, guess what your new job is?
Drinking ice.
Oh, obvious troll gets ice. Thank you, Tila. No, right there. Oh, Jimmy, thanks for owning up to it.
Mr. I like to write policy.
All right. Well done. Another one that I don't want to beat too much of dead horse on this is that it is too hard to get started. If you look at all the components that you need to know to be effective in your job, especially as you're first entering into the InfoSec field, it's quite an enormous learning curve. And hopefully, Blue Team Army can help lower this down. The idea behind this is that you will have a GUI that will drive everything, but the GUI will be relying on the PowerShell scripts, PowerShell commandlets that are pre-written. That means that if you want to have a module that supports Invoke IR or the Uproot project, you absolutely can. And this is the important bit, you don't need to modify the underlying application, script, or commandlets in any way. This is going to be passing those items to them as if you were typing it at the command line. It's just a different interface. The reason that this is nicer, in my opinion, is that in many cases the PowerShell components are almost infinitely faster. The AD objects commandlets, if you are not using those, you owe it to yourself to look at those immediately. The the Active Directory web services that uses are incredibly fast. In fact, they're so fast the first time you use them, you're going to think that you did something wrong because the results are almost instantaneous. And I'm talking about for the very largest domains. We've done this in a testing environment where there were 300,000 user accounts with sub-30-second lookup times. You can barely load an MSC snapping on a large domain in 30 seconds at that time. So we are going to go GUI and, turn it over a new leaf. I admit it for myself that I was the CLI elitist. I'm going to do my best to put those days behind me. So far, we're electing to use Windows forms, and for the devs that have ever used those, you understand why I'm a little, well, it's not as robust and easy to use. However, it doesn't require a compiler. It's very easy to read the code and understand what's going on. And so hopefully people can get in and start extending the framework immediately. That said, if somebody can come up with a more pleasant GUI to use, by all means let us know. Okay, Jimmy's got some ideas. That ice is stimulating the old brain. We do have to give up the command line. Or not give it up, we just have to understand that sometimes it's not the perfect tool for it. For instance, in a lot of cases, doing things at network layer is very difficult. This is a view of a very small domain that is in the Amazon cloud. This is actually what I was using when I was building up our pen testing for PowerShell class. And the thing that's interesting about this is that this tool supports a way that you can select based off of a query type language. I don't have a name for it yet. I'm still trying to figure out all the syntax type of things. Moving on. What the idea is that when you do a search, it would highlight the different elements, the different systems that are that fit those criteria. And so it's a very powerful graphic way of seeing things. A lot of the tools that we have right now that I'm aware of are in a tabular view, which, while nice and great, doesn't always tell the story. Then from there you simply click on the object and then you choose which menu, submenu, to walk through. The idea behind this is to be simple, intuitive, and very easy to learn. Ideally, I want somebody to hit the ground running and within their first week be able to effectively do junior level domain administrator type tasks, which I think is very doable.
This one, you got it. So let's face it, like I said before, we kind of talked about this, and there are so many talks on red team for everything. But honestly, you look at it, raise your hand in this room if you actually do blue team right now. Thank God. Now, out of these people, raise your hand if when you first got an InfoSec, you're like, I want to be a pen tester, I want to be something red team. Okay, good. That's changing. Here's the thing. There's not enough jobs, honestly, in the real world for the amount of people who want to go red team because I want to hack things. I saw Mr. Robot, that's cool. I want to go do that stuff. If, in the real world, when you want to go out and you want to find a job, more than likely, in great old corporate America, it's going to be a blue team job. So, we need more blue teamers. Honestly, blue team is very sexy. If you catch somebody doing a pen test, for example, you feel super awesome. Yes, those guys are trying to break into my system, they're trying to break into my network. No. I saw them and here's how. It's an awesome feeling. Now, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to be a blue team elitist. Red team is cool. We do have an obvious need for the red team. However, you know what, honestly, I'm trying to look for something I can protect myself with, but red team, you're kind of lazy. Honestly, you can just sit there and do your thing, and you only have to be successful one time. We have to be successful every time.
And I'll admit it, I've been a red teamer, and it's very easy to be lazy. When the GPP attack, show of hands here, how many red teamers have used the group policy preferences attack? It's real easy to fall into that rut of you just, boom, hey, I got an admin account, got an admin account, got an admin account. First time I ran into an environment that had patched that appropriately, I was like, what do you mean? I gotta work now? And that's how it is, And one little bit of hope I want to give you blue teamers out there, you always will hear something about how the attackers have all these advantages. They don't have to play by the rules, they have more funding, they got more time. Those are true, but you know what? Blue team, it's your house. You know it. Protect your house. You have home court advantage. Use it. But, on a later note, why can't we just work together? Blue team and red team should be working together. If you are a pen tester, ask. Don't try to hide from the blue team. Ask to sit in the company's side and say, hey, blue team, I'm about to fire some packets at you. Do you see them coming? Do that. It's going to be a slower pen test, but you're going to be bringing better improvements to that organization than if you said, hey, yo, bro, I caught all these domain admin accounts. Yeah, nobody cares about domain admins. It's fun, but it doesn't really tell the story. It doesn't really tangibly improve the defensive capabilities. So by doing purple teaming, you're going to be in a better position.
And just to throw in on that a little bit, when you're on the blue team, and I've mentioned this before in other talks, but I'm just going to hit it real quick. Okay, all those people who raise their hand, I do blue team on a daily basis. How many here love catching somebody who's doing a pen test? Everybody. Yeah. Now, how many would like to hear that, we have a pen test coming in 2 weeks? So you're sitting there and you're waiting because you want to show them. You want to show them I caught you. And maybe you did a little human, or maybe, you just found out that it's going to be tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So you're sitting there, you're waiting. You have that email, it's already typed up, all you have to do is hit send. How fast can I show them I beat that pen test? Honestly, I love that because you get to, kill the red tape. However, how does that really affect you and your monitoring program, for example? Yeah, you did it. You showed them. You caught them, but you kind of knew about it ahead of time. We, as the blue team side, should really be focused on, I don't want to know. I want to see how good my controls are. I want to see how good my monitoring is. I want to make sure that my tools actually work the way they should. So, and I'll admit that I used to do it all the time. I used to sit there waiting for that pen test to come through. I know when it's coming. Maybe I get it in my boss's calendar, knew it was coming, but that's okay. And then boom, send that email. I caught you in a minute. Well, that's cool, but at the end of the day, if I didn't know it was coming, would I have caught it?
Well, hold on a second. You were watching your boss's calendar for pen tests? Maybe. All right. Okay. I don't know how to take that. And I just have pictures of you sitting at a console wearing that clown mask. All right, there are pictures. Okay, so one of the things that we're hoping with Blue Team Army, though, is that you can take better advantage of that home court advantage that you have in your network. If you don't know what normal is, you're toast. One of the things, the greatest jokes that I always hear when people talk about log analysis, somebody will be like, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And they're dead wrong. It's like finding one needle in a pile of needles. There's no you've been hacked log. There's no, real easy button. So what we're going to have to do is some good hard detective work. One of the things that detective work includes is having a good template of the work, of the research, of the things you're going to do each and every time. Let's script it out. Let's script it out together. One of the things that we're hoping that we can do is make better use of the log sources that we have. Toward that end, within Blue Team Army, I'm using some of the, how do I put this politely, it's Microsoft Teams, interesting math capabilities that PowerShell has. It's nowhere near as robust as, say, a scripting language like R, but it's, you can do the math that you need to do. It's just a little more tedious. What we've done is set up a, for those of you who don't know, I used to work with Black Hills InfoSec, so I had an inside track to the fast Fourier transform analysis. And so one of the things that we did is we have under the defer tasks, there's a stats log component, and what you're looking at is my attempt at conducting the fast Fourier transform against the security event log for login event ID 4624, which are login events. And so I'm hoping, and I need more help on this, that as we continue to do the analysis on this, that we don't need to have huge elk stacks in order to do all this analysis. All too often, it seems that we're defaulting to, you know, hey, cloud instances are relatively cheap, it's really cheap to get big iron now, let's just throw the logs at huge systems. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we can do meaningful statistical analysis work within smaller sample sets. However, those of you who have any stats knowledge know that those graphs tell a horrible story. I've gotten that from there, really. And that's because the sample windows are too small. So, you know, there's warts right now, but we'll figure it out and we'll get it squared away. This is one where I'm going to get a little extra oriented. The tools that require login. And I'm not talking about super proprietary or scary things that some vendors are doing. No, what I'm talking about are the fact that all too often, many organizations just don't have the technical wherewithal to convert from one database format to XML, or from one database to another. And that's a crying shame. Please bear in mind, we have to let the ego go. It's our duty, for those who have the capabilities to do this, to bring folks up so that they have this capability. If they are able to do this, they will be able to do better tool selection. They will be able to spend more time on doing defensive techniques. Yes, this stinks that we have to do this. A buddy of mine said that he feels like he's chewing their food for them. I kind of agree. However, if they're not able to eat, you got to do something. And that's the cruel reality of where we're at. So what we've done is we've made a tool that basically acts as a universal data translator. For those of you who are familiar with EDI, you know, this is not something new. This is not, you know, magic sauce that we're doing. But the way the tool will work is it simpler works right now, and what we will continue to develop is adding different data sets that you can walk through in a GUI manner and step through item by item. Here's what we're seeing here, here's how we want it to be transformed. Is it going to be the most efficient way? No. If you have better ways of doing these, if you have purpose-built tools, please use them. This tool is a life preserver for folks who are floundering at sea. That's what it's mainly meant for. All right, so some final thoughts, and we'll close on a slight side rant. We need to shake things up. I'm tired of reading the breach reports. It's horrible. If this were the airline industry, we'd have planes falling out of the air every day. People would be like, well, yeah, that's what happens. I mean, you got on a plane. What was you expecting? You know, and it's sad that we've become that callous. You know, and part of the reason is that there's no economic pain that we feel. You know, companies just simply buy a bigger insurance policy, the insurance company makes a little more money, and things move along. However, those days may be ending relatively soon. Lloyd's of London, who are famous for insuring things like Beyonce's backside, they will insure almost anything. They are now getting out of cyber insurance. Ponder that a moment. That's kind of scary. So the sea is starting to change, and I hope that it does. But until there's economic pain, it's not going to. What we're doing, what Blue Team Army is simply, hey, you have something that could help somebody defend easier, learn their network better, or understand how to make their environment more tamper evident. Throw it up in there. Let's see if it sticks to the wall or not. The final thought that I want to leave you with is this. I don't know if he's still here or not, but a real hero of mine, Win Schwarthout, is here at this conference. And years ago, he wrote a book, and I'm not getting any sort of kickbacks for mentioning this book. He wrote a book called Time-Based Security, and in it is a formula, sort of, like this. And it's attack time, is it greater than or less than your response and detection time together? This is a totally vendor-neutral, technology-agnostic way for you to evaluate the efficacy of your security program. Does anybody know what the average time to detection is?
210 days.
210 days. Well, you're not started. Well, good for you. But here's the deal. How many attackers need 210 days to get into our networks? Not many. So what we need to start doing is thinking in terms of this. How can we make things more tamper evident? How can we make things so that we respond in an automated fashion? One of the things that I'm very hopeful for with the Blue Team Army is once we get some of the foundational things, we're going to start putting in active defense components. Things like artillery, things like honeypots, things like zip bombs, so that when the bad guy downloads some source code, when they open it up, it fills their damn hard drive. I want them to choke on the hosts that they get. They are going to earn their shells. It's not going to be a free ride. We, together, can change that. It's time to put spikes on the road. We can do that. It's our house. Woo. All right. Blue Team's marching. Join up. If you're interested, we're going to be starting to send tweets. Be expecting to see a version of stuff up on GitHub fairly soon. And it's going to be in Flex. I know that we're probably going to be doing a couple different GUI experiments in terms of how we're going to do things. So, don't get married to any one thing, but I don't know. I see you guys nodding your heads kind of grooving on something as much as you can at 10 o'clock on Sunday.con. So it seems like this is striking a chord. Hopefully, if nothing else, you can download stuff, kick the tires, let us know how it goes. But I assure you, I am not a good coder. In fact, anybody who looks at my source code will say, Mick, you really should walk away from the keyboard. And I'll say, no, it's my precious. Here's the deal. No need to have ego in this. Just throw it up. If somebody can do better, prove it. So, nothing's written in stone. Let's have some fun with it. Wanted to say thanks for Derbycon for letting us be here, our families and friends for putting up with probably more than they should. And I also got to give mad shout outs to the DDS crew. Thanks for those who showed up. It's very inspiring to be working there every day. And then, good God, y'all, why the heck are you even here? So,
I didn't go to the party.
Oh, you didn't go to the party? It was good. You missed the twirly with the rings and stuff.
The after party was the after party after the after party. That, I think, is good. I remember.
All right, well, any questions?
Yeah. The auditing structure that you talked about, is there a reporting framework so that you can prove that?
Yeah, so that's an awesome question. And for those who didn't hear it, is when you have those tools that do those checks, is there some sort of report? And the answer is there's a stub that sort of does that. The way it works is you will set the frequency that you wish those checks to be run, and then you just get a thumbs up, thumbs down in each item that was checked. So it's not as robust as we'd like yet, but it's there.
Actually, what do we got along with that? One of the things that we have for our roadmap, if you will, is the various technical components of different compliance